I had no intention of doing a review of this film, but after what I've seen, I'm like, what? Plus, it gives me an excuse to do this. And let's get on with the show. Okay, that's enough of that. Firstly, let's just get this out there. This is a completely spoiler-free review. How I'm going to do that without going into certain things, I have no idea. I'm absolutely ad-libbing this, no script or anything, so please bear with me. I've been home about an hour and I needed that time to just process what I've seen, because like I said before, I've just left going, what? Don't get me wrong, I'm not slating this film. I actually did enjoy it. I thought it was actually an entertaining, killed a couple of hours film, and I actually enjoyed the film, and there's a lot of scenes in there where I went, yeah, that's great, oh, I'm actually enjoying this. But then there's other points, and there's one in particular that I won't go into because it's a spoiler, but I just was like, I looked at my friend Steve, who was with me, and I just went, what? And he was doing the exact same thing back to me. I think the whole audience in the cinema did it, just went, okay. And there was a lot of that during this film. Let's go into the good points first. The cinematography was gorgeous. The scenes, all the scenes were absolutely stunning. It's exactly what we expect from a Star Wars film. Every scene was stunning. Every motion capture, every puppet, creative animation, CGI. One questionable CGI point, but we'll let that slip. And you'll know exactly which bit I'm on about when you see it. But other than that, an entertaining film. The problem is the nostalgia. It is rammed down your throat, and it is used to progress the story. So every time they get to a point where they're like, okay, what do we do now? Let's ram a little bit of nostalgia and make this really convenient. And that's what it was. At no point did I feel the danger or the threat of what was going on until the very end sequence, the very end fight. Every bit where I should have been feeling the danger or the threat that was coming, I didn't, because all of a sudden this nostalgia piece would be dropped in, or this Easter egg would be dropped in that made everything very convenient and very easy to progress the story. Was that done because they had to cut this film down maybe? Potentially this film could have been a heck of a lot longer, up to 4 hours, probably a 4-hour film probably. But so instead of, to move the story along quicker, they threw in these nostalgia bits, and it was just rammed down your throat to the point where when it started off it was great, brilliant, oh that's quite cute, that's quite great, nice throwback to the original trilogy. But then it got to a stage where, alright, okay, we don't need this. We don't need this comment. We don't need this nostalgia bit to progress the story. And it just, surely there's something new we could do. And it just got to the stage where I was bored of it. I was bored of the throwbacks and Easter eggs because it was blatantly used to drive the story forward. Don't get me wrong, the acting was good. Although I thought that I had on the drive home was, the acting was good for what they were given, which was to be a hot, sweaty, usually looking very, very stressed, running around like headless chickens, trying to get away from explosions and stuff. And that was it. There was no other sort of real range for the actors to do. Don't get me wrong, I think every single actor did brilliantly, but that was the range. The range was to look panicked or stressed or sweaty or be running around. There was no other range of acting. To be fair, probably the best acting was done by Palpatine. Not a spoiler, everybody knows he's in it. The best acting in there. So that was, yeah, I mean the acting was fine. Musical score, exactly what we expect from a Star Wars film. The original theme tune is played in different ways throughout the film, so it got a bit repetitive, and it was noticeable in certain scenes that it was like the Imperial Death March, but with a different tone. It was a Star Wars theme tune, but in a different tone. So that was a bit disappointing. But it played along perfectly with what was going on screen, so I can't really slate it for that. So this film was a blatant cover up the mistakes of what happened in The Last Jedi. And it works as that type of film. It does clear up the messes that were made in The Last Jedi. It corrects certain mistakes. It makes things slightly make more sense. But like I say, in the middle of this film, to correct the mistakes of Last Jedi, me and Steve just went, what? It was just so random. And I can understand why they did it. Don't agree with it. I think they could have gone a different route. A lot of fans, I think, will agree. But this is the sort of route they went down. And this is, the idea of this is to wrap up the Skywalker saga, as it's now being called, because of obviously the planned spin-offs, etc., which, money. And it does wrap up the Skywalker saga quite nicely. The ending's quite nice. Again, another nostalgia moment though that's sort of thrown in your face. Wasn't really needed, but it was fine. And it explains a lot of what's going to happen with these characters. There is still one question hanging over my head in this movie. I'm not going to go into it because it's a spoiler review, but a spoiler-free review. But there's something that never actually gets finally resolved at the end. So yeah, I'm kind of, I feel lost, even though I was given answers, and I don't know how to process that in my head. I was given answers through this film of how they were going to wrap things up, and how they wrapped things up, but I'm still left going, really? Huh? There was things that happened that I wouldn't have thought could happen. It was never suggested in the original trilogy. It was never suggested in the episodes 1 to 3. But suddenly, these things are able to suddenly happen. And it's all down to convenience and making the story happen. And that kind of spoilt the film. That really brought it down a massive grade. And it just made you think, well, this film feels kind of pointless. It kind of feels like the story could have carried on without any of these new characters or any of this. And we could have just carried on with the original cast. But, by the by, I was still entertained. And for a new generation of Star Wars fans that have never got into this, this is probably more up their street. They're used to the big screen explosions and things like that, and the big CGI effects and things like that. So for new Star Wars fans, this is probably quite a good film, and quite a good film. However, I was brought up on the original trilogy. Return of the Jedi, I believe, came out when I was the same year I was born. So I was brought up with those original 3. And for me, for a nostalgia point of view, great, but too much. Too much. And I keep coming back to this point, and it's because that's what brings the film down. And then tweaking things that has never been established in any of the canon suddenly can happen. There were surprises along the way, and as I say, it's an entertaining film. I don't know how much, I'm kind of repeating myself now because I genuinely feel just, I just hope to God that when George Lucas looks at this, and when he looked at his original script for the 9 scripts or ideas that he had for the 9 films, he can live with himself with selling this to Disney, because I honestly, guys, I'm upset. I remember reading an interview with George Lucas when parts 1 to 3 came out, and he said he did have a 9-part story, always did have, never didn't, and I just got a feeling this isn't his vision. So with that, going into scores, I spoke to Steve about it because that's who I was with, Steve from Avengers, from the Avengers universe, and asked him his score. And out of 5, he struggled to give it a 2. I'm a bit more generous because I was entertained, because it is a throwback, and it is an entertaining movie for 2 hours that I'll quite happily possibly watch again. Might nitpick a bit things. I think it would probably be watch once more and that'll be it though. I gave it a 3. So out of 10 that we normally do, that's a 5. And to be honest guys, that's probably generous. So with that guys, thanks very much for watching. I know this was a really quick review and me rambling quite a bit and repeating myself, but I really just, once you see it, you'll know what I'm on about and hopefully you'll agree with what I've said. Please leave a comment below, let me know what your thoughts. No spoilers though, please guys. Just let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me, anything that isn't a spoiler, stick in the comments below. And as always guys, geek out. And I've lost what the hell was I trying to say. Batteries have died. Typical. I can't remember how you change the batteries in this now either.